The recruits just keep on rolling in for Josh Heupel. 3 more commits this week, one late on a Tuesday night, another one Wednesday evening. Who are they? What do they bring to the class? How good can this recruiting class be? All that and more. It's your Thursday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am Cain, your host here at Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single moment. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Every dayers couldn't do the show without you. Appreciate you for being here. And if you're new to the show, pull up a chair, give us a chance. Number one spot for news and entertainment. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode, Throwback Thursday. So we're going to chat with Noah Taylor, the creator of Neyland Press Corps, and we're going to talk about the Artful Dodger. Going to talk about Condredge Holloway, one of the best football players ever play at Tennessee, and an SEC history maker. We're going to talk about him and that magical, not necessarily magical, but the interesting case of the 1972 Tennessee Volunteers. A couple of big-time games in there, UCLA and Clemson most notably. All that and more is coming up in segments 2 and 3 with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps. But first, going to recap a couple of big-time Tennessee football wins for Josh Heupel here the last couple of days, and big-time stuff. When you look at where this recruiting class currently is right now, just outside the top 10. Okay, Tennessee now has 20 commits as Tennessee pulled in a commitment from Jowell Combay late on a Wednesday evening, or I guess late afternoon, early evening at about 5 o'clock. And then, of course, Tuesday night, it was Brayden Rouse. And I'm going to start with Brayden Rouse because, we've talked about him a lot on this show. Brayden Rouse is a very good football player. He is an old-school type linebacker. The way him and his team approached his recruitment was very old school. What I mean by that is pretty much, if you're in the media, you cover recruiting and stuff like that, you know when a commitment is coming, okay? You know the deal, right? You know someone's coming, you pre-tape an interview, you have quotes and all that and everything. You don't mention anything because you never want to ruin somebody's moment, but you know when a commitment is coming. Nobody knew. Nobody knew what Brayden Rouse is going to do. The last time I remember there being a recruitment like this on announcement day when nobody necessarily knew what was going on was Jordan Matthews. A couple of cycles ago, of course, from the Baton Rouge area. He's, was here for a couple of years and left via the transfer portal, and he's at Vanderbilt now. But I remember going into that announcement, everybody was like, well, we think it's going to be Tennessee, but it might not be. He hasn't told any coaching staffs. I think the Rouse camp alerted the coaching staffs right before the announcement. We're talking like 5-10 minutes before. And yeah, it was really, really cool. And credit the camp, credit the family. They went about this the right way. They didn't want to talk an awful lot the last couple of weeks. They went on vacation. They did a lot of soul searching. Brayden specifically tried to figure out exactly where he wanted to go to school. It was between Tennessee, Texas, Alabama was involved in that one a little bit. Michigan was involved in that one a little bit, but it was Tennessee-Texas battle, and Brayden Rouse chose the University of Tennessee. Also, in his commitment video, your boy, his voice hit leadoff. I was the first voice you hear. You didn't see my face. Good call on Brayden and his graphics department team. Did not put my face in that video, but you heard my voice. That was pretty cool. But you guys have been watching the show, you every day, as you guys know, this is one of the recruits that I wanted. I really love his tape. I think he's an excellent player. I think that he's going to add a lot to the room that William Inge is already doing a great job with. William Inge just continues to stack great recruiting class on top of great recruiting class. He brought in the Perlotti, brought in Jaden Harmon, brought in Brandon Ains, brought in, obviously, TJ White, brought in Brayden Rouse. All those guys are 4-stars. I think Perlotti was a 3-star, but all those guys were a 4-star by one outlet or another. He is doing an excellent job. And then you couple that with what Brian John Marie did and bringing in Arion Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, Edwin Spillman, Jordan Burns. There's a lot to work with at linebacker right now, which is why I think the linebacker position is going to be a whole lot better this year. Guys got to grow up, no doubt. But Brayden Rouse, top, according to the On3 industry rankings, number 100 in the country, the 7th-ranked linebacker, 10th-ranked player out of the state of Georgia. On3 has him at 155 overall, 7th-ranked linebacker, 19th player out of Georgia. The highest outlet has him at number 68. That's 247. Rivals has him at 83, and of course, On3 and Rivals are now one. Those ranking systems are going to be merging here pretty soon. But nonetheless, really, really talented player. Then you couple him with TJ White, who is also a top 100 player. On 3 has him at like 82. Man, that linebacker class with TJ White, Brayden Rouse, and Braylon Outlaw looking really, really good. So hats off to William Inge, man. He just continues, him and Chop just continue to recruit and recruit and recruit. So Brayden Rouse, a big-time win on Tuesday night about 7:30 Eastern Time. And then on Wednesday around 5 o'clock, Jowell Combay, his teammate from Kell, Marietta, Georgia, his teammate, a safety 3-star prospect, went ahead and jumped in the boat as well to give Tennessee 20 commits so far in the class of 2026. Jowell Combay, official visit a couple weeks ago in the month of June, 6'2", 190. A guy that's really athletic, really long, really quick. Again, that's kind of been a trademark and the defensive backfield for Tennessee as they continue to build this class. Athleticism, length, and that's kind of what Combay is. And he's on 3 industry rankings, has him at number 608 nationally, 54th ranked safety, 66th ranked player out of Georgia. Again, not going to win a whole lot of awards with fans in terms of just being a lower rated recruit and all that, but as I continue to say, you want to take these type of guys, you got to win some big ones, and Brayden Rouse was a big one for sure that Tennessee won. So Josh Heupel on his staff, trusting their evaluations, on a little bit of a roll right here, and of course we'll see if Tennessee's going to have another commit later on this week when offensive tackle J.B. Shapaz is set to announce his commitment Friday, I believe. It's going to come down between Tennessee and South Carolina. Ohio State is in that mix, but it's going to be either Tennessee or South Carolina. Tennessee won out for Combay over South Carolina as well. Wisconsin was also in there, but Tennessee and Wisconsin and South Carolina, kind of the 3 big ones there for Jowell Combay. So you look at this class for Tennessee, and Tennessee's done a really, really good job. 20 commits already, 14 on the defensive side of the football, 14 defensive commits, 6 on the offensive side. So offensively, you got a little ways to go. Don't get me wrong, you got a little ways to go. You got 1 quarterback in Faison Brandon, 1 tight end in Carson Sneed, no running back so far. Tyreek King and Legend Bay are 2 wide receivers. Zach Groves, C.J. Edwards, Kedrick Golston, your 3 edge players. Your 2 interior defensive linemen, Darion Albert and Darrell Rivers. Your 3 linebackers now, Brayden Rouse, TJ White, Braylon Outlaw. 3 safeties, KJ McClain, Luke Thompson, and now Jowell Combay. 3 corners, Zayden Anderson, Jamian Theodore, and Javonte Smith, who Javonte Smith committed yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say. That brings you to 14 on defense, 6 on offense, 1 5-star, 9 4-stars, and 10 3-stars. Tennessee now has 20 commits, 11 commits in the past 12 days. Prior to the Combay commitment the other day, Tennessee was ranked 13th in the country and 5th in the Southeastern Conference. So Tennessee's doing a good job, continuing to roll on a little bit, and I'm really, really impressed that the staff closed in on Brayden Rouse because they went quiet there at the end. A lot of people felt like it was Texas. A lot of smoke on social media on Tuesday afternoon, late into the evening, that it was going to be Texas, but relationships won out in the end. This was an old-school recruitment. He liked talking ball with William Inge, and he likes everything about Tennessee. Plus, it's not too far from home. Tennessee earns the commit of Brayden Rouse and, of course, Jowell Combay from yesterday, the safety. So Tennessee football recruiting continues to soar. Let's dial it back a couple of decades. Let's go back to 1972. Throw it back here on a Thursday with Neyland Press Corps. Talk about the Artful Dodger. That is Condredge Holloway. That's coming up next when we return right here on your Thursday Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You already follow the action, right? Why not make it a little bit more interesting, right? I mean, I'm watching sports all night, every night, right? So if I have a little bit of money on something, that makes it more enticing, makes it more interesting, and even for me to watch sports I don't necessarily like to watch, like maybe soccer or golf or something like that. Your friends are out at the pool, your friends are at the river, your friends are on vacation while you're sitting here watching sports and making some money. FanDuel, I use FanDuel to track my favorite matchups. The app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and new fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast way to pay out, and it makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. One more time. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. Get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to go ahead and get started. FanDuel, it is where you can make every moment more. Noah Taylor joining us back here on Throwback Thursday, Neyland Press Corps, and you can find the link for that Substack in the show notes of this episode. Noah, you wrote earlier this week on the 1974 Tennessee win over Clemson. A little bit about the 74 season. Was it the Clemson game or the UCLA game? I'm sorry.
It was Clemson, yeah.
Okay, Clemson. There we go. But I want to focus on this conversation. Of course, you can all go and read the story that you had up there. Two really cool games back in 1974. We're talking about the Artful Dodger here and of Condredge Holloway and what he's meant. We're gonna have more talking about the Hall of Famer in segment number 2. But those two games specifically in 1974, man, really kind of told the story for Tennessee football that year. And the first one was the season opener there against UCLA.
Yeah, it was a big game, and we touch on that. You mentioned that what I wrote about this week. Obviously, the story was focused on that Clemson game, but you can't talk about that 74 season without that opener against UCLA. It was supposed to be a big year for Condredge Holloway's last year at Tennessee. He had done a lot of really great things at the position coming in. And then 72 kind of burst onto the scene as a sophomore. Obviously, freshman didn't play then. To give you an idea of how excited fans were to see this guy play in a freshman game back when they had those. I don't know if you guys had to do those back in the day at Carson Newman or not.
So we had at Carson Newman, we had we called it the Freshman Bowl. Or no, was it the Red Shirt Bowl, the Freshman Bowl? I forgot what we called it. But at Carson Newman, places like the lower levels, Division II, Tuscaloosa, Carson Newman, you sign like 100 freshmen, right, just to help your enrollment, and that's how people like me got to play football. And so there's like 60 guys that don't even suit out on Saturdays. So every Monday, we would what did we call it, man? Anyway, we called it something, and we would play each other on Mondays. But then later in my career, when I was a junior or senior and actually playing in meaningful games, we had some JV games, back in the day. So. Yeah. I know Tennessee's done that before, and then that's kind of where you're going with that. But yes, at the lower levels, make this all about me. We did have some JV games.
Yeah, so it was a big deal for him. They played Notre Dame in a freshman game in 71, and 30,000 people showed up at Neyland Stadium for that game just to see Condredge Holloway play. So a guy that had a lot of hype coming in and really lived up to it. But that 74 year was supposed to be big for him. But he dealt with injuries right out of the gate, and that was really the theme of that season for him. But, you open with UCLA. It's a top 20 matchup on ABC. It was the game of the day, really, because you didn't get a lot of opportunities to play on TV back then if you got to play on it at all. So, it was a lot of hype kind of going into that game. Tennessee season opener, Condredge is his final year. But, I think there's a funny story about Pat Ryan, who was the backup quarterback at the time. He had told Condredge as a joke before the game, don't get hurt or anything, so I don't have to go out there, which that's not verbatim, but that is a story from that. And but he goes out there early and kind of lowers his shoulder on a play, which he had done a lot, and hurt his shoulder, and he's out of the game early. So Pat Ryan has to play most of that. He goes to the hospital, and it kind of looks like this dream season for him. This season of so many expectations is kind of derailed already. So you get to the third quarter, UCLA's leading in that one. As far as they know, how Holloway's at the hospital and his season's over. But then all of a sudden, the Neyland Stadium crowd kind of roars to life. And nobody's really sure what's going on. But then you see Condredge run out of the tunnel. A lot of fans that probably watched it live. A lot of fans probably seen the clips.
I'm not trying to compare it, Noah, but it's like Shane Falco running out of the locker room at halftime there. with the Sentinels down 17-0 at the half. But yeah, comparable.
Yeah, comparable for sure. Yeah, it is kind of like a movie moment for him. And he comes out there, and there's a story of him going up to Bill Battle and kind of surprising him there on the sideline and saying, "I'm good to go, coach." And he said something like, "And get your butt back out there." And he goes out there in the third quarter, and they go into the fourth, and Tennessee's still trailing. And, another famous play, he takes off and runs on Tennessee's final drive, and hurt shoulder and all, ended into the end zone, goes for the pylon, scores. Really a big moment in his career, big moment for Tennessee. And I think Bill Battle had considered kind of going for the win there. Tennessee obviously had a lot of the momentum with Holloway coming back and everything, but you could tell if you go back and watch that clip, if you saw it live, the shoulder was clearly bothering him there. So they settled for the tie instead. But
What a
certainly
way to
one.
start that season too. And I mean, like, I'm going here. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm going here, and
No.
I'm sure you've done this way more than me. But at utsports.com, you go back, you find the old schedule. I'm looking at the 1974 schedule. I'm clicking on the final book, and they have a digital copy of a Xerox page, and you can barely see anything. I'm looking like first downs. UCLA had 8, Tennessee had 6. Rushing yards, UCLA had 27 carries, 88 yards. Tennessee had 25 carries, 79 yards. But you can barely, I mean, again, it's history, and I think it's so neat. But you tie that game, and kind of late heroics come from behind, fashion, going for 2 and all that. That's kind of the story of the Clemson game later on. I mean, Tennessee, you tied that UCLA opener. You beat Kansas the next week. You got shut out by Auburn 21-0. You beat Tulsa. You lose to LSU. You lose to Alabama. You're 0-2, or you've lost 2 straight. You've lost 2 straight. You're below 500. It was win or go home, right? I mean, you had to have this game against Clemson, and as I'm sure you'll get to, it was another late touchdown and then rolling the dice going for 2 there, and Tennessee won it 29-28.
Yeah, it was a huge game, and I mean, it kind of Tennessee's season was really hanging in the balance there, and there were some rumblings in '73 about Bill Battle's tenure and how that season shaped out, but this was a big moment for him. It was a big moment for the program, like you said. He 2 straight losses going into that at LSU, at home against Alabama. Their 4th straight loss to Alabama, by the way, going into that Clemson game. So you think a non-conference game could be big in October, at the end of October. This one is big as it could be. And doing this story this week, I looked through a ton of newspaper archives, a lot of articles from that game, News Sentinel, Knoxville Journal. And one thing that stuck out to me, and I wrote about it, was before that game, Bill Battle said that, it was very tense. There was a lot of tension in that locker room. Nobody said this is like for the season, but everybody knew it was for the season.
Doesn't need to be said, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things that didn't need to be said, and so he kind of went off script before the game and walked in the locker room, told a joke. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anywhere what that joke was, but the guys liked it. They laughed. They went out there and played loose, and they needed to be loose because it was kind of a back and forth game. We talked about everything that was on the line. I mean, there'd have been a lot of opportunities there for Tennessee to fold, and they didn't. Defense couldn't get a stop. It seemed like every time Tennessee got back into it, Clemson would answer right back. And so, you get down kind of similar to that UCLA game. You get down in the final minute, final drive. Stanley Morgan gets a pitch out, dives into the corner of the end zone, scores. And then Bill Battle, he's faced with that decision again, like he was against UCLA, but this time he didn't hesitate. Put the 2 fingers in the air, called Condredge Holloway over there, said, we're going to run the same. Tennessee had run a 2-point play earlier in that game to tie it, 21-21. And it entailed Holloway taking the ball, running right, and scoring. It worked. So they were going to run that again, knowing Clemson would be ready for it. And the option was reverse your field, throw it up to the end zone, or fumble it into the end zone, run for the end zone to the left side, fumble it on purpose if you have to, if you can't get there, and then Larry Sievers try to recover it. But luckily for Tennessee, Clemson's defense they played it about as good as you could. Couldn't get a handle on Holloway, though. Got one guy around the waist. One guy kind of lowered the boom as he released that ball, and Larry Sievers, the pride of Clinton, Tennessee, jumped up and made a miraculous grab, and Tennessee wins that game. And it does change their season. And that's the famous photograph of Gus Manning running at Larry Sievers with the briefcase and the cigar in his mouth that fans love so much. Just an epic photo, but it's from that game. And yeah, Tennessee, went into that game kind of hoping a win would turn their season around, and it did. They beat Memphis State the next week, beat Ole Miss, beat Kentucky, which has happened quite a bit, and then tied Vanderbilt at the end of the year, and goes and beats Maryland in the Liberty Bowl. So finishes the year with 7 wins, 3 losses, and then the 2 ties. But considering where they started, that Clemson game is heroic, and as it was, it really did turn the season around for Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, I love looking at old scores, and I love looking at stats. how the game's evolved. And again, 7-3-2. I mean, you don't tie in football anymore. I mean, I guess you can in the National Football League. It's rare, but 7-3-2, and yeah, what you said, where you started to where you ended with the injuries and all that. Going back to that 2-point conversion, Holloway, he scored late in the fourth quarter again, bringing it within 1, 28-27. Battle goes for 2. The option shut down. Reverses field, actually goes back to like the 21 or 22 yard line or something. It just kind of throws up a prayer, and then Larry Severs comes down. So 2 of the more memorable football games in Tennessee history, with the Artful Dodger and Condredge Holloway, the opener of 1974 against UCLA, and then, of course, a non-conference October 26th game against Clemson at Neyland Stadium, where Tennessee was able to come back and win 29-28. More on Condredge Holloway. Obviously, everybody and their mother knows who he is, but just what he meant to Tennessee football, what he's meant to Tennessee baseball, what he's meant to the Southeastern Conference, and really a guy that was before his time. We'll explain more when we return right here. Throwback Thursday with Neyland Press Corp's Noah Taylor right here on Locked On Vols. We continue on this Throwback Thursday edition with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corp. Go ahead and subscribe and check out that Substack. He wrote about the 1974 Tennessee win over Clemson earlier this week, and you can't tell that story without talking about UCLA, which we just did, and of course, the Artful Dodger and Condredge Holloway. And when I think, Noah, of throwback Tennessee football, old school Tennessee football, I mean, Condredge is one of the first images that pops up in my brain, and you've seen the pictures, you've seen the video clips, you've seen the records and all that. I mean, you're talking about a guy, first and foremost, not only one of the greatest players to ever play here, but, a history maker, a barrier breaker, if you will. First black SEC starting quarterback. I mean, that's magnificent. He was the first black player on Tennessee's baseball program. And we'll talk baseball here in a moment. A phenomenal player, right? But not only that, he was a Canadian Football League Hall of Famer. ESPN did a documentary, the Color Orange, the Condredge Holloway story. He's got a statue, one of 4, Trailblazers statues outside of Gate 21 at Neyland Stadium. This dude's impact stretches far beyond the football field, and that's when you really did something right in your playing career, that you're talking about it 50 years later.
Yeah, I mean, if you followed the Neyland Press Corps for a while, you've probably noticed that I post a lot of Condredge Holloway content on there, a lot of highlights, for one, because they're so mesmerizing. I mean, a guy at the quarterback position was just way ahead of his time, I think. And, also because, like you mentioned, because of what he's done, because of what he's meant to the program and everything like that. And I think a run there for that's maybe, I wouldn't say forgotten, but a run of Tennessee football from 1970, which I know he wasn't there yet in 70, but from 70 to about 74, which we just talked about, that's maybe a little bit forgotten for Tennessee under Bill Battle. I think that the guy's been a phenomenal ambassador for Tennessee, and you just can't say enough about what he did on the football field, on the baseball field, but certainly, the I guess, historic things he did. But a guy that, from Alabama, Northern Alabama, when recruiting time came, Alabama came calling, Auburn came calling, but Tennessee, Bill Battle was another Alabama native, ironically, was the only coach that said, "Hey, we'll give you a shot at quarterback," and that's what Condredge wanted. Alabama wanted him to play defensive back. Bear Bryant, had told him that I don't think the program is ready for a black quarterback in the early 1970s. So he goes to Tennessee to make that happen, and just had an incredible career there. And one thing about him too, which the story, like you said, that ESPN, Kenny Chesney, they did the Color Orange documentary on him. A lot of Tennessee fans are obviously familiar with it, especially older fans who grew up idolizing Condredge. But a guy that had a chance to play Major League Baseball in high school. You mentioned his baseball career. He was a first round draft pick out of high school, and had the money on the table literally to go there. His mom wanted him to get a college degree because of Alabama state laws, and because he was 17, he couldn't sign a baseball contract without his parents. So he listened to mom. He went to Tennessee, and again, is revered, loved, looked up to, legend status as the statue. And then obviously went on and had a great Hall of Fame career in Canadian Football League as well. So A guy I think you can't say enough about. I could watch his highlights all the time. Not only did we write about him this week, got a little highlight reel I put together, his drive against Penn State his sophomore year, just his second game at Tennessee, and led a critical drive there to put that game away. So a guy that I look up to for sure, and I know a lot of Tennessee fans do.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Bill Battle gave him an opportunity to come play quarterback, whereas Alabama and Auburn wouldn't. And he was drafted 12th round by the New England Patriots as a DB, went to
Yeah.
Canada to play quarterback, and obviously
Yep.
that panned out pretty well. But I love old school football. You know, SEC laws, NCAA rules didn't allow freshmen to play, so you had an SEC sophomore of the year, and Condredge Holloway won that in 1972, a part of a 10-2, 4-2 SEC record, 10-2 overall. Not bad for a starting quarterback there as a first year. He was the SEC Junior of the Year, I believe. Phenomenal junior campaign, and then of course we mentioned his senior season with some injuries and all that. But I mean, he finished his Tennessee career at the time leader in total offense, lowest interception percentage by a passer of at least 400 attempts, 23 wins as a starting quarterback, the most by any Vol at the conclusion of a 3-year career, so on and so forth. He was a team captain as a senior, obviously. Then you look at baseball, man, and I mean, goodness gracious, let's see. He finished his Tennessee baseball career with 147 hits, 119 games, all-time career leader for Tennessee. Second most in school history with 104 runs scored, 147 hits, a 353 career batting average, fifth best in school history at the time, multiple All-Americans, just a phenomenal career. And again, it's something I mentioned earlier, maybe I mentioned it off air, you know, before his time. Like when I think of, quarterbacks that could have excelled in this era of college football,
Yeah.
Heath Schuler, Condredge Holloway, man, like obviously they did pretty well when they played, but their style is timeless. I mean, they could play right now and impact the game. And I think that also, says a lot about their athleticism.
Yeah, and I think too, another story that I came across this week, which by the way, a lot of older Tennessee fans may own this book already. But Russ Bev, who was the longtime Knoxville Journal sports editor, longtime Tennessee beat writer, had a book that chronicled Tennessee football from I believe 1963 to 1993, which is when that book came out. He's got a whole chapter on Condredge, and there's a story in there. We talked about that 1974 season. Bill Battle, I think before that year began, uh, he had sat Condredge down in his office and had said, you know, I know you've been injured, you've had to deal with that. If you have any hopes of playing Major League Baseball, I'm going to give you an out. You can walk away. I'll defend you to the media, the fans.
Man.
I'll stand right there with you. And Holloway's answer was thanks, but no thanks. So went out there and had the season that he had in '74, which I think with that context, it makes those, again, a 7-3 and 2 year. You may not think a lot of it, especially with the years that Tennessee has had. But when you look at those two games in particular, UCLA and Clemson, and the fact this guy just put his body on the line, literally for that tie and then that win to really turn that season around, and to turn down the money he did and turn down the opportunities he did to play baseball. I think that just kind of makes his legend grow a little bit, and I think it's great Tennessee's got him out there with three other obviously legendary players have contributed to the program, but certainly one of the reasons why I think he's a fan favorite for sure.
No doubt, one of the greatest of all time to suit up for the orange and whites, and again, holds records, and is a lot of history there with the Artful Dodger. Noah, great stuff this week on Substack. Again, go check it out. Subscribe. You can subscribe for free. You can pledge a donation to Noah and what he's doing over there with the Neyland Press Corps. Support his work, but a great article there on the 1974 Tennessee Clemson game that we talked about in segment number 1. I don't know what you and I are going to talk about next week. I know it's going to be fun, but what are some things you're going to be writing here soon on the Substack in the coming weeks?
Yeah, we're trying to highlight, a game kind of every week and up until kickoff. Something that I was kind of doing at Rivals. And obviously I thought it was something that I think fans liked. So carrying that over to here now, and they couldn't think of a better game to start off than that 74 Clemson game, and certainly right about Condredge again. But yeah, I think got a lot of exciting stuff coming up with that. Already in the works with some more in-depth, I guess, features on some Tennessee teams, some Tennessee players coming up as well. I guess I won't reveal too much on that, but yet because it's in the kind of the beginning stages. But excited about those things as well. But yeah, just looking forward to continue doing that. Continue kind of, my process is kind of getting in the archives and what game sounds the most interesting to write about that week. So I've got one in mind right now that goes back to General Nealon. So and his third, I guess, stint as Tennessee's head coach, in a game against Kentucky. So excited about that one, and we'll have that one up this week, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that as well next week.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of a series right now this week. This century, going back to the year 2000, the best running back, the best wide receiver, the best this, the best that, and man, you're going back decades upon decades. So quite an undertaking, but you can check it all out over there at Nealon Press Corps. Again, you can subscribe to the Substack for free. Pledge a donation. That link is in the show notes if you so choose. Noah Taylor, we'll do Throwback Thursday again next week. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks for having me on, man.
Great show today. Talked some recruiting there in segment number 1 and Tennessee's big wins about Brayden Rouse and, of course, Jowell Combay yesterday. Noah Taylor stopped by for segments 2 and 3, a little Throwback Thursday, talking about the 1972 season, some of those big wins, UCLA, the tie, and then the come-from-behind win against Clemson later that year, and, of course, Condredge Holloway and the part that he played and all that type of stuff. So really enjoying these Throwback Thursday segments every Thursday here in the summer right here on Locked On Vols. Hope you guys are as well. And, of course, check out Nealon Press Corps, that Substack account as well. All right, when we come back tomorrow, let's preview talking season. Let's talk about talking season, okay? SEC Media Days are next week. The MLB baseball draft, of course, is the Sunday and Monday as well. But where is Tennessee going to be projected to finish the SEC? Any SEC all-conference preseason selection for the Vols? Who do we think are going to appear on those lists? Where do we think Tennessee is going to be picked in the SEC? Also, Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football, he went ahead and did his own SEC rankings. We're going to break those apart because, woohoo, not good if you're a Tennessee fan. Of course, you're not watching the show if you're not a Tennessee fan. All that and more is coming up on a Friday Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch. Let's do it again tomorrow, everybody. This is Locked On Vols.